All right. Everybody do a quick mic check.
Test.
One at a time. Dylan,
Check.
Kyle,
Yo.
Ryan,
Check.
Andrew.
Check.
Okay, everybody's coming out about the same level. All right, we'll see how this turns out. It's showing in the audio feed that everything's coming through. When I recorded the last thing, all the audio came through, so should work. All right, well, welcome everyone. I'm so excited we're finally at this point. It's been a long, grueling process. We have our four players. Let's go ahead and go around and everybody can give a little bit about yourself. This portion here is going to be edited and chopped up, so we can, anything that gets fucked up we can take out. But there's going to be portions where I'm going to be using this for like special features and everything. So just give a little bit of a rundown of who you are. Obviously you don't know anything about your character yet, but a little bit about you, and then we can use this for, stuff later. Let's start with
Kyle. What's up everyone? I'm Kyle. Last name Brodigan, which is super fun to say, so no one ever really says it, so Kyle's good. Sometimes people call me KB for short, but I'm out here in York, Pennsylvania, and as everyone, as I'm sure that's here this evening, or some afternoon, depending on the time zone, we're all excited to be here. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be a part of this. I probably have the least amount of experience of D&D in the group, but what I lack in experience, I hope to contribute in overall crazy hijinks, antics, and overall just bringing a fun flavor to the group and to the experience. So happy to be here. I'm jacked up.
Awesome. Thanks, man. All right, let's go over to Andrew. Let's hear a little bit about you.
Okay. So hi, my name is Andrew. My friends call me AJ. My last name is Jensen, so it works really well. I've been a D&D player for over 10 years, nearly 13, and love the game ever since I was a kid and still love it to this day. Currently, I work as a digital artist and illustrator, so I usually find that a lot of my fantasy-driven imagination and creativity probably stemmed from things like this and a lot of good fantasy reading from like The Fool's Apprentice or Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, everything. That's what my dad read to me as a kid when I was going to sleep. I blame him for where I am today, but I never regret it. But that's me.
Awesome. And Dylan.
I'm Dylan. I'm from Missoula, Montana. I've been playing D&D for about 4 years. I'm a photojournalist and U.S. Army veteran. Happy you guys are watching this. Happy to be here. Long and grueling road to get here, but it's going to pay off, and excited to be here as well.
Okay, thank you. And Ryan.
Yeah, my name is Ryan. I live in Seattle, Washington. I've been playing D&D for about 4 years as well, and I'm wearing this funny hat because I also like to cycle in my free time. This might make sense to some of you guys later on, but if I was going to be a Ninja Turtle, I would be Donatello. And yeah, super excited to be here, just like everybody else, and I can't wait to get the campaign started.
Perfect. Well, I am your DM, Steelaxe. My name is Sean Steele. I live in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and I've put together a world that we're calling HotA. It's Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and it's a homebrew world. We're using 5e mechanics, and been auditioning players for about 2 months, and these are our 4 finalists. So tonight we're going to be going over just some rules that we're going to be doing. We're going to go over the character creation, and yeah, we're just going to start slowly getting everything ready on the production side for the game to go, and hope everybody loves the show. So let's go ahead and kick it off. Before we get into the actual character creating, let's talk about team composition and have a discussion about that, about what you guys are looking for, what kind of team you guys want to have, and then kind of we'll fit everything in later as we go. So first topic I'll just bring up, and then we'll kind of just discuss it. Well-rounded versus subject matter experts. How do you guys feel? What do you want for the party as a whole? versus individuals? Okay.
I think that being flexible for like this as well as any D&D group is really important. I don't think we should all be jack of all trades, master of none, but I also think that we shouldn't just be, focused on one thing as well, because there might be a situation that comes up where none of us can handle that if we're all just like, I blow things up with fire, I stab people, I steal things, I pray to the goddess. But you need to be diplomatic, and you're like, fuck.
Yeah, I think in a group, especially for a campaign like this, which is gonna hopefully run for quite some time, and going through 1 through 20, I think it'd be nice to have a party that doesn't have a lot of overlap. So when everybody has their turn to shine, they really actually shine, not through only their person, but their character as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'm just gonna adjust my light. Sorry, guys.
I kind of see, I figure that most things can work in any situation. It's just knowing what your weaknesses are and planning for them accordingly. And basically, just knowing for a fact that if you have a bunch of magic casters, then at least have a good sense of maybe thinking, what do I do when there's a thing that's immune to magic? Maybe some of us would have proficiency in other things that might be useful tie-ins, like they make better weapon choices, or they can do something a bit more physical, like still be a caster, but still also be able to cover the gap, I guess.
Okay.
Just knowing. Yeah.
Well, I think I'll just default back to my original thought process of, especially in teams of 4 like this. But I mean, I think just teams in general. If you go to the Ninja Turtle aspect, I mean, they're all badass. They can all fight, right? But they all have their thing that they do. And It's also interesting sometimes when they're not in a group of 4. Let's say they're in 2 groups of 2, the smart guy and the funny guy go and do something. Well, that could lead to all kinds of different things happening. But even though I'll jump out of my Ninja Turtle default and go to even like something like the Avengers or something. They can all fight. They all have different ways of fighting, but they all have their own little knacks too. And that's what really brings a team together. So it kind of loops back into what Dylan said earlier. Like, I don't think it's necessarily the best thing to be, we're just amazing at everything, because I think it's fun to have that little bit of a spotlight when there is that something that you can just bring to the table. And we all bring enough to the table, but I think like that one special thing, I think is what really brings the group together, when we can all have that one thing.
Okay, so you each want to have a particular slice of the pie for the overall rounding of the party.
I think a specialization is important, but I also think we don't want to just be able to do that.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So each of you will have your own flexibility to expand the party's usefulness?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. Let's talk about sneaky versus straightforward, and I don't mean just rogue or ranger. I just mean like, how are you guys going to want to tackle playing the game as a whole? Obviously, there's going to be times where you are trying to be more stealthy than others, and there's times to be straightforward, but just generically how you guys are wanting to structure the team comp, which do you want to be more towards?
I tend to be more straightforward most of the time, so I think it would probably be easier to be more like what you are, than trying to be something you're not.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that every situation we should approach intelligently. Like, yeah, if we need to be sneaky, we should definitely try and sneak or something like that. But I also feel like if the situation calls for it and the gloves are off, we might as well just charge in and try to eliminate the threat or diffuse the situation as fast as possible and indirectly as possible.
Okay.
I mean, it's always going to boil down to situation, but since we're kind of picking one or the other, I'm just going to think back to one of my original characters who always just was like, I'm going to go hit this thing with my axe, and then we'll decide if it was a good idea or a bad idea later. I mean, it's might not always be the best solution, but, if we're doing straightforward or stealthy, I'm more just, let's just get that over with, and maybe we'll save some time if that was the right answer anyway to begin with, though.
And there's definitely different types of straightforward as well.
Yeah, yeah.
True too.
If I was to be perfectly honest, typical me, I would say pick the third option. Yeah, so I wouldn't do that. I see myself more as the one where it's whatever plan you take, try to cover whatever becomes a mistake or whatever doesn't seem to work, so that the plan can work.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of being able to do both plans because, as you said, situation always depends.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel like if there was a choice of the two, I guess sneaky would be the most logical for me because you want to probably put yourself in the most advantageous position before you strike. And I feel like sneaky has that sense of getting yourself where you need to be just before you strike.
So maybe finding a healthy blend then.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sarcastic versus diplomatic. There's no right or wrong answers for any of this stuff. I just kind of want everybody to just talk about what they kind of want from the party in these areas, just so everybody can go into the creation, kind of keeping that stuff in mind of what the group wants. So how do you guys feel about it?
Sarcastic. I think I just even do that in my own life lots of times in terms of always take things with a grain of silliness to it. If it's super serious, it might not always be the best time, but I mean, I just try to look at the positive. I know it's sarcastic versus diplomatic, but it's always a joke first, I think, with me, and then figure out if it was the right call or not at the first. Kind of like straightforward versus stealthy. Straightforward, sarcastic. That sounds about right for where I come from.
And it could land somewhere in the middle too. It's just a dynamic that I want everybody to just be on the same page.
I'm one or the other. That's it.
I like being diplomatic, but I think it depends on who you're interacting with.
Okay.
I think about a quote from General Matisse. It's be kind, be courteous, but have a plan to kill everyone you meet. Like, I feel like diplomacy should always be the first option, but if that falls out, like, you should be ready to be like, all right, well, here's the quip while I stab you in the face.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'd probably, if I was my personality, it'd be diplomatic, and at the same time, I know I could never compete sarcastically to Kyle. So.
That's not true.
Let's hold off on that comparison because I'm a sarcastic fuck.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, let's see.
That's totally true.
I feel like Dylan's cruel irony.
All right. What about, so this is obviously subject to change. Just something I want to bring up is having healers in the party versus not having. So 5e's interesting because of the way with the healing on rests and stuff like that. It's not a requirement, and not having a healer opens up a slot to have more damage or more meat shields. But in those moments where you need a healer, it can really screw you over. So how are your guys' feelings on, do you guys want to have that or not?
I really enjoy clerics, and I think like they can put out a buttload of damage as well. So, I mean, I think it's always nice to have a healer in the party.
I disagree. I think having a designated healer kind of limits the character. Because, I mean, if you're focused on healing, that means you have to stay alive more than everyone else in the party. Because if they go down, you can res them like any other game or RPG or anything like that. But if you have someone who's just the designated healer, I feel, at least I would be, if I was a designated healer, I'd be kind of tentative to like charge forward with the rest of the party if we're assaulting something or fighting a boss or something like that. I would stay back. I would conserve my spell slots if I was a cleric per se or a healing druid or something like that until they're needed. And I feel like that might limit the party's ability to put out as much damage as they could possibly do.
Yeah.
I have a cleric in my Saturday game that does second most damage in every combat after the rogues.
Oh yeah, like they're what's the guiding bolt is ridiculous.
Well, spirit guardians can chunk down like very large groups of monsters very swiftly. I mean, they have a pretty sick arsenal of weaponry that they can bring. You don't have to even play a cleric as a healer. I mean, you can play them as a damage dealer if you're smart about your spell selection too.
Yeah, absolutely. Like
And then in a pinch,
clerics.
you know, they're there to pull your ass up off the ground.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like if I don't agree with the whole like designated heals thing.
Sure.
Like if we have someone who can heal, fuck yeah. Like a druid or a cleric or a paladin even, who's can do that, cool. But I don't think the party needs like a designated focused healer.
It's definitely not necessary with 5th edition.
Yeah. I think it's a good thing to kind of consider in a way where it's like you have an idea that certain classes can do certain things, and you know, for instance, like a druid, a ranger, a cleric, a paladin, sometimes the warlock, if they're celestial, they have the options to heal, and that's a nice thing for them. But then it's the question of, okay, so if your class doesn't have a heal, what do you do instead to compensate? Do you have just an extra bit of shielding? Do you have an extra bit of damage mitigation of some kind, or do you carry a bunch of health potions? You know, or what's your counter? I think that's the big thing. Is just, you know, as long as you can fill in the thing that you'll need when you don't have it. So if you didn't have a healer, just make sure you have a bunch of shield, absorbs, and health potions, and we should be fine.
Or even like a character that could buff the other characters.
Right, yeah. As long as, as everyone's got like even little bit rolls, tiny rolls. Like a paladin can lay on hands, that's an emergency heal. They're not going to be their bread and butter. I'm just running around touching people, but you know, they can do it. And just like a ranger.
That's what I do in real life, is just run around and touch people.
Pretty standard. It's a pretty standard day, yeah. I mean, I think clerics, and at least the ones that I know that play clerics, are very, I like to heal the party, and I like to be the one who brings people. I think they're really just power trippers, because they get to decide who lives or dies.
Who lives and who dies.
The one cleric I briefly played was a half-orc war cleric, and he did not do much healing.
Yeah,
I mean,
like clerics, for instance, get like fireball and like a lot of offensive fire spells and things like that, which is really cool. I think just I didn't mean to cut you off, Kyle, but I think like it bounces back to kind of my point is like a designated heals, I think, will hinder the party more than help the party.
It's one of those things where, you know, I think we all play in enough groups where, you know, you've been in a circumstance where I know my one group, there's no cleric. We have to be a little bit smarter about it, you know, with our shields, or make sure we go get some healing potions before we go trudge around into the fucking woods. But at the same time, you know, when you don't know what you're missing unless you have it. And then another group I have, the cleric is all about healing, and when you're dropping and he goes and you. It's like, oh man, I'm buying that guy a beer and an apple pie. You know, I mean, it adds dynamics both ways. But again, going back to like the one trick pony thing in terms of like abilities and things, like, I mean, that's what a cleric does. I mean, that's their niche. So I don't think it's necessary. I think it's actually a little bit more strategery, where if we don't have one, now we got to really do some battle tactics and, you know, figure out what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
All right. Shoot first, ask questions later versus like trying to plan everything. There's pros and cons to both, and I'm not saying you can't do both in the game. I'm just talking as a general rule of thumb. How are you guys wanting to have the party's decisions go towards?
I think strategic would be the best option. Because, I mean, honestly, like, if we're shooting first and asking questions later, if we, like, walk into a room, there's a bunch of Jews with weapons, and we just kill them, and then you're like, oh, well, those were the resistance fighters you were supposed to meet up with. Like, oh, sorry.
Yeah, but that guy had a sword. Like,
everyone's got swords.
That's enough. That's enough.
We're not the Ferguson Police Department, all right?
I'm a big fan of. I am a big fan of planning, not only the fact that it gives you a little bit more dynamic, and it gives you the chance to, like, you know, talk things over and to really engage. But the best thing, of course, is the best laid plans. Usually when they start to fumble is when you get a lot of people going, oh, shit, now what? And then you start going into, like, you know, I had a plan.
We kill everything.
Work? Yeah.
Okay.
That's the backup. If the plan goes to shit, we just kill everything.
Right, yeah.
I see a lot of shoot first, ask questions later. So, you know, I think planning especially if we know we're gonna go get into some serious trouble, that also can just lead to like good role play and stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
Not to always break it down into situational, but I said situational 4 questions ago, so I'm going to bring it back for this one. I mean, it's situational in the fact that if it's something that we know is some big bad shit, I don't think any character I play, even with my personality in my character, would be opposed to maybe thinking that one out a little bit. There's always plan B of just go and just try to not die and kill everything else first, but I mean, it's situational, I think, in terms of, that guy looked at me wrong. I just, that's fine. That's not going to end well for him. But there's other times where you should probably think it out first. So
Right.
I'm gonna wishy-washy that one and be in the middle, where I think that's definitely a fun. It makes it a little bit more fun if it's situational, especially on the.
Okay. Let's talk about party alignment. So, some DMs don't like evil alignment for their players. My personal preference is I don't care. It needs to make sense. My rule of thumb, though, is if your character is evil, you will not be evil towards the people in the party with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? You take all that stuff out on the world and the NPCs and everything like that. Even if you take any kind of movie or show that has evil people, you have to have people
Who
alive
helped them?
to acknowledge your evilness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to do any like whispers to me and then we do secret rolls to see if you can pickpocket from another player or anything like that. Or like, I don't want any kind of sabotaging or stuff like that. So I'm okay with evil, but I'm not talking
chaotic
individuals. I'm talking party alignment. How does the party want to approach things? To me, it would make more sense if you're going to be evil, the party be evil. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be that way, but why would an evil and a good person be working together unless there was something that was a common thing to overcome together? And that's fine too, but that's something that would have to be established. So what kind of alignments are you guys wanting for the party as a whole? Not on an individual level.
An evil party would definitely be interesting because you don't see an evil party a lot of the time. But most people can't do evil well. I think like if you're gonna do evil, you have to do lawful evil. My girlfriend bought me that Mordenkainen's Tomb of Foes, and I was just reading through some of it about the demons and stuff, and there was a really cool section in it about Asmodeus, who was like tried by the angels, and he essentially convinced the angels that he really wasn't evil. He was just giving mortals a choice of power, and it was up to them whether they took it or not, and that if they did any ill will with that power that he gave them, that wasn't really on him anymore. And like he convinced he brought all the angels into dissent because they couldn't accept that, and so the angels all started fighting each other. So it's like if you're gonna be evil, you have to be pretty clever with your evil. I think for it to be interesting and fun.
I think a good way to reword it would be, do you guys want the party to be selfish or selfless?
Yeah,
You know what I
that's
mean?
I was gonna
Is
say.
it trying to look out for taking care of everyone around them, doesn't care either way, or we're going to benefit us even if it puts innocence, down?
So can I ask a question? If we were evil, would that affect the way that the campaign goes? Like, would we end up being like on the horseman side, and if we were good, would we end up being on just the side of good against them?
You're going to be against the
Yeah.
horsemen.
Can I interject? I like one of my favorite characters I've ever played was a lawful evil rogue. And we had lawful good people in the party. We had chaotic good people in the party. I think the evil thing, especially like chaotic evil, is just you're a psychopath. Like I don't think it can ever actually work unless everyone else in your party is chaotic evil, because you're just a roving. It's like Clockwork Orange.
That's
But
like
I think a
the
lawful
Joker
evil
on
character.
Batman.
Yeah,
He
I
can't
think a
really
lawful
work with people.
Yeah.
a lawful evil character is someone I feel they have a goal, they have a code, they're still like honorable people, but they don't really care about anything or anyone else aside from this goal or this purpose. Neutral evil, kind of the same thing, but I feel like they're just a narcissist or extremely selfish or something like that. And honestly, in the confines of this campaign, if we're like, it's kind of like when the Mafia helped the Allies in World War II. Like, they're like, hey, yeah, you guys, we don't like you, but we also don't want to get killed by the Nazis, so we're going to work together. It's like the Horsemen are a threat to everyone. So even if you are evil, I feel like an intelligent character would be like, yeah, I don't agree with everything you do, and I've done some really bad shit in my life, but we can work together.
I think it's one of those... Oh, go ahead, Sean, sorry.
I was saying, my preference is to not have someone evil in this campaign.
Yeah.
Just for continuity and just bigger picture reasons. But I'm not saying you can't. You know what I mean? But it can cause some issues that would slow down progression, which is what I care about more than what your alignment is. But again, like I said, like if you really wanted to do it, you could. But I think the party's alignment is the topic, not individuals. You know, how do you guys want the party's alignment?
Yeah.
Do you want to be the superheroes that everybody just worships and, you know, you're always kissing babies and shaking politician hands? Or do you want to be just, we're doing good, but we also got to benefit ourselves along the way? You know what I mean? Like a neutral stance?
I always, like, when I have people ask me these questions and whatnot, I always try to say, you know, every person can be good or evil depending on your perspective. So if you wanted to imagine it like in a war situation, if someone is lawful evil, there's someone who may be a general on the other side, but they're going to abide by the rules of war. So they're not going to just massacre women and children. They will leave them alone. They'll take prisoners. You don't kill prisoners. You subdue them. That's like a lawful evil. Then if you went chaotic evil, they just they throw rules out the door. So one has a set of principles. One doesn't know what principles are, and a neutral evil is just someone who looks out for themselves. Whatever the situation, they'll bend the rules if they need to. If, like, for the most time, they'll abide by the rules long enough until it doesn't suit them, and they might need to change it. Otherwise, they know they're going to make themselves a target. So they're probably going to be as casual as they can be. I'm a personal fan of chaotic neutral, just because I feel like that's the easiest one to explain, because you will be nice, you'll be bad if you need to, and if the situation forces it. But for the most part, no one's out there to try and make an enemy. Mm-hmm. You want to try and be on everyone's good side if you can, but if you know you have to pick and you're like, I have to be mean to someone, it's like the good guy who's going to be ratchet and guilt, like, oh my god.
You definitely don't want to be true neutral. You know,
if
you're going to be neutral, it's got to be lawful or chaotic. You know, it's just too boring if it's neutral.
I like chaotic neutral.
I think it's another one of those things that's like, you can have selfish characters in the party and you can have like altruistically good characters in the party, and that's another thing that can lend to like also really interesting role-play encounters with each other. You know, it's like creates a check and balance system, and even though they're all working together, you know, they like maybe one person who starts evil like progresses and he like realizes maybe I shouldn't be this way and stuff like that.
But the party as a whole, do you want the party to be, I mean, obviously everything's situational, but do you want the party to be like, what would the common opinion of the party be to bystanding NPCs just watching the deeds of the party? Would they say that they're heroes, or would they say that they're powerful adventurers who are doing an ultimate good but don't get in their way because they're going to benefit themselves?
I think lawful neutral, honestly, because, and this is maybe a little meta, but I mean, we are trying to destroy the Horsemen, and that's our primary goal, is to either figure out why this is happening, or to kill them, or to capture them, or whatever it is. But at the same time, it's a war. You got to make sacrifices, and yeah, we need to mitigate the damage as much as possible.